Tell me if this is you. You're working on tunes from someone like Mississippi John Hurt or Etta Baker and you hit a wall. It's probably because there's a lot happening in those tunes. You got chords, you got melody, you got bass, but here's the thing. If you nail the alternating bass, everything else falls into place a whole lot easier. And I'm going to show you 3 patterns that help unlock these tunes, which they're a whole lot simpler than you think. So grab your guitar and let's get to work. This is where you should start. The 5/4 pattern is just a couple notes and it introduces some movement into the bass line. And it really is the foundation of alternating bass and so many great country blues tunes. But before we dig in, I've added a group of alternating bass exercises to the fingerpicking quick start. You can grab that PDF for free at the link below so you can follow along with these exercises and really get these movements down. But right now, let's dive in and take a look at the 5/4 alternating bass pattern. For the 5/4 alternating bass line, it's all about going back and forth between the 5th string and the 4th string. So this works really well on chords where the 5th string is the lowest note of the chord, like an A chord. And we could decorate the A chord with all kinds of stuff on top, but when we just focus on the 5th string, which is open, and the 4th at the 2nd fret, we get this little movement just going back and forth between these 2 notes. And we'll play this on the beats. We'd like to sync up with the beat, a metronome if you can, and you'll play up to the 1, 2, 3, 4, right on those beats. So you just go back and forth. So for a typical measure over A, we'll play some things on top maybe, but the bass line is going to be playing 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the beats. 5, 4, 5, 4. Those are the string numbers. What's really nice about this is we're working on strings that are right next to each other. So we just push down on the 5th string and we're right near where we need to be to play the next bass note over the 4th string. Then we come right back. We just work in this small little area with our thumb. And by the way, I am applying a small palm mute right here. So the palm of my hand is resting just in front of this white part. That's the saddle of the guitar. But plenty of country blues tunes have that palm mute lifted so the strings are not muted and they ring out. But right now, we're doing this just to get that nice little mute happening. Now to really get this movement down and to get into what it feels like to play a 5/4 bass line in a real country blues tune, let's take a look at an exercise. For this exercise, let's start with an A major on the fretboard and set up like this. Your index finger on your picking hand on the 3rd string, middle finger on the 2nd, and ring finger on the 1st string so that we can play those top 3 notes of the chord all at the same time. Because we've got to start training the ability for the thumb to keep going while the other fingers are doing something else. So we're going to move that chord through different beats. Let's start on beat 1 like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and move it to beat 2. And if you could do it on beat 1 and beat 2, then you can do it on 3 and 4. It's the exact same movement. So what we need to do next is train the ability to get in between like this. So we play bass chord bass. And we need to do that on the and of 1 and the and of 2 like this. 1 and 2, 3, 4, or 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4. Feel free to make this exercise smaller. You don't have to do all 4 bars together like I just did. You can really just focus on looping 1 measure if that is a particular problem point for you. That's how we get better. Find that problem point, get hyper-focused on it, and drill it until it's no longer a problem. But we've got to do more than just playing the chord. Let's start playing where we separate out the fingers with our next exercise. We're still going to set up with our A major and set our finger picking up the same way. Alternating bass still goes by 5/4, 5/4. But what we're going to do is play the chord tones, top 3 strings, separately. We'll just go up in order like this, but then we descend back through the strings and then go back up. All right, that's the first measure, and this will make a great little 1-bar loop to drill. But in the exercise that I have written for you, we're going to reverse that order in the second measure. Throw our fingers some change ups. Again, you can make the exercise really what you need. But if you get this first bar, try matching it with this in the second bar. We start high, come in, then go back up. And what this does is it changes when you're playing notes together. In other words, the 5/4, there's always something happening with the thumb. Now, on the second measure, what's happening with the thumb at the 4th string is we have to play the 3rd string. So things get a little bit tight here. We want to train that skill so that our fingers don't bump into each other, that we get good notes from both the 4th string and the 3rd. So once again, this exercise all together. And remember that just because we can play this over A, we're not limited to playing this just over the A chord. Remember, any chord where the 5th string is the lowest note is going to work. So another one that you're going to see often in country blues would be a C chord. It'll look like this. For the C chord, the only thing that changes is what's on the fretboard. The thumb is doing the exact same movement over C here with the 5/4 alternating bass line as what we just did over A. This pattern is solid, playable, and it works on really any chord where the 5th string is your bass note, which raises the obvious next question: what about chords that start on the 6th string? That's where the 6/4 pattern comes in. Same concept, different string groups. Let's dive in and see it in action. Just like the 5/4 alternating bass line, the 6/4 gets its name from the strings that we're going to work with, the 6th and 4th strings. We go back and forth on beat. Remember, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the beats. Now, if we look at the strings, it's 6, 4, 6, 4. So the 6th string starts out on beat 1. So this works really well anytime you have a chord whose lowest note is on the 6th string. We think of this E major when we think of this alternating pattern, G major, however you play your G, and then also in country blues we often play a D7 like this, or you don't necessarily have to use your thumb for that, but we refinger it and play it this way and put the F sharp in the bass. So you're going to see that come up, but it's still just a 6/4 alternating bass. Now back to our E here. There's a couple things that we want to do. We want to make sure that we hit that 4th string solid, because unlike our 5/4, where we were just working in this real tight little space, staying basically around the 5th string and the 4th string, here we're having to jump over the 5th string, not hit it, and target that 4th string, right? So this one might take a little bit more practice. It's definitely leveling up a bit. But once you get some practice under your fingers here and you get some confidence with this pattern, try this. Try pushing through a little bit on beats 2 and 4 to give a little thumb strum. You don't necessarily do this all the time in the pattern, but it can do a lot to fill out your sound. Now let's have a look at an exercise that will really help you dial in this 6/4 pattern. Just like we did before, we're going to set up so our fingers on our picking hand are set up on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string with the index, middle, and ring in that order so that we can play the top 3 strings and get some chord movement going on here along with our alternating bass line, which changes to 6/4. So we've got an E major fretting on the fretboard so that we can play this. And we're going to do the same thing we did in our first exercise and just move those chord tones to different beats. There it is on beat 1 and then beat 2. Beat 1, 2, 3, 4, beat 2. And then we're going to get in between. Let's count. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Now we need to match this with some separation on our picking hand. So we're going to do the same pattern we did before, up through the strings and then back down. For the second measure, we start high and go in. And of course, we layer all of that with the alternating bass, 6th string and 4th string. All right, now you got 2 patterns, and between them you can play a whole lot of country blues. You can get by without getting any fancier than this. It's great vocabulary to have, but things get really interesting and we start to level up when we combine these two. The 5-4-6-4 combines both patterns into one moving bass line. This is really what you hear in a lot of Mississippi John Hurt and Etta Baker style playing. The bass just doesn't alternate, it moves. This one is a combination of the 2 alternating patterns that we've already learned, kind of abbreviated, because normally we would do 5-4-5-4 for a whole measure, and then 6-4-6-4 for a whole measure, but here we're just going to do a 5-4 followed by a 6-4, but we're going to do it over the same chord. Let's go to a C chord to demonstrate this. This is where we would commonly encounter our 5-4-6-4 bass line. And when I play it, notice what we have here. We have some movement, both in the bass, in the notes that we're playing, but also on the fretboard. We have to drop down to the G on the 3rd fret of the 6th string in order to play the 6 of our 5-4-6-4, right? And keep in mind, those are string numbers, right? So watch the thumb as I say the numbers, 5-4-6-4, and they play a 1, 2, 3, 4 the beats. All right. Now you'll see this as we maybe close that shape into a C7. We can come up here and do it over different chords, just moving around the fretboard, right? And you saw that a little bit in the Carolina breakdown. It's really just that, just refingered. With, of course, a little bit of fanciness on top. And just like before, we've got an exercise here that kind of helps bring together the 5-4 and 6-4 pattern so that we can pull off these really cool alternating bass lines with a 5-4-6-4. Let's fret a C major and use that same idea of taking the chord tones, top 3 strings, and moving that chord to different beats. We'll start with beat 1. And remember, we've got a 5-4-6-4 bass line here. So we're going to have to move and drop down with the ring finger to the 6th string at the 3rd fret to play beat 3, right? So loop this all by itself without anything else happening on the strings, just the bass line, until you get a feel for that movement. Then we want to layer things in slowly and methodically, starting with just that chord on beat 1. It'll sound like this. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we can move it to beat 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we got to get in between the beats. And we're going to do something a little bit different here. We're going to play in between every beat. All right, if you can do it, make things smaller if you need to. Practice any little part of this as its own exercise. But here it is, playing in between every beat with those chord tones. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just like before, we need an exercise that still trains that bass line, but separates our finger picking. So what we're going to do is a little bit of a different approach. We're not just going up and then back down here. What we're going to do instead is go up, 3rd string, 2nd string, 1st string, down to the 1st, and then 1st, 2nd, 3rd. That's the pattern of what's happening on top. And we'll do that again and just loop that as we play the bass. These three patterns pretty much are alternating bass. If you master them, then you've got a heck of a foundation going for you that's going to serve you well in this style of acoustic blues. And remember, you can download the fingerpicking quick starts. You can practice these on your own and really get these movements down. But here's the thing. These three bass patterns alone won't make a song. You've got to stack on chords and a snappy melody, like I did in the Carolina breakdown snippets that you saw throughout this video. That's when you start to sound more like Etta Baker or Mississippi John Hurt. Inside the MyBGI membership, you'll find the fingerstyle roadmap, which is a complete system that takes you from these foundational patterns all the way through to more advanced fingerstyle blues. Carolina breakdown is just one of the courses on the roadmap to help you play great fingerstyle acoustic blues. If you're ready to take the next step, then join us at the link below. Until then, practice smart and play on.